Hello everyone, welcome back. Get ready, because we have a brand new story on this channel. Share your impressions in the comments and thank you for your continued support. And now to the story. Alright, let's jump right in. As Sabrina Hale stepped off the plane, her head held high, she radiated confidence. She didn't feel a shred of remorse about her 6-week affair down in Portugal. Honestly, why should she? She was accomplished, attractive, and felt completely suffocated in her life with Rick. Dr. Julian had reignited feelings she'd buried years ago. Their fling was daring and electrifying, right up until Rick's furious phone call abruptly shattered her illusion. When she heard him raging over her blatant infidelity, it caught her off guard, but part of her secretly admired him finally standing up for himself. Yet, as the days turned to weeks, Trey's charm quickly soured. Once he realized her marriage was shaky, he turned manipulative, cruel, even scornful. What had initially felt liberating soon turned humiliating, yet Sabrina stubbornly refused to admit any regret. Her pride compelled her to withstand Trey's ridicule, but the affair ultimately ended coldly. He deliberately switched seats on the flight home just to avoid her. Around the same time, her colleague Lena, caught in her own affair, confided that Derek had threatened to expose everything. Mark, Lena's husband, wasn't exactly the forgiving type. Predictably, as soon as they landed back in the States, a process server blindsided Lena with divorce papers. Sabrina anxiously braced herself for the same, but felt relieved when no one approached her. It confirmed exactly what she'd suspected. Derek didn't have the backbone to actually leave her. She reassured herself he'd be at home, hurt yet still loyal, eagerly awaiting her return. After spending 6 weeks under Trey's control, she was desperate to reassert dominance, picturing Derek desperate to welcome her back. Her newfound confidence quickly crumbled when she arrived at the Ambassador Hotel. Instead of Derek eagerly waiting, she found nothing but an empty lobby. Ignoring a small flicker of anxiety, she confidently approached the front desk. Her composure faltered when, one by one, all her credit cards were declined. A creeping dread started to gnaw at her. Keeping her forced smile in place, she insisted they try again, but the clerk firmly shook his head. Pretending not to hear the whispers around her, she stepped away, certain Derek had a perfectly good explanation. Sabrina's worry intensified when she dialed Rick's number, only to find it disconnected. Panic began bubbling beneath her skin. Just then, a man in a sharp suit approached, handing her a thick manila envelope. "Derek asked me to give this to you," was all he said. No mention of legal documents, no apologies, nothing else. With trembling fingers, she tore it open, revealing a typed letter and another smaller, sealed envelope inside. Her eyes widened with shock as she began reading. Derek hadn't forgiven her, he'd changed entirely. He sounded cold, bitter, a far cry from the passive man she'd underestimated for years. Her heartbeat quickened with each harsh line, but one phrase made her freeze. "You apparently justified your actions by concluding I had a whirlwind affair with Deidre in Kenya." Derek firmly stated that he hadn't crossed any real lines, explaining he had merely comforted a traumatized friend. He contrasted this sharply with Sabrina's deliberate betrayals. She flushed with embarrassment, recalling the smug excuses she'd given herself every time guilt threatened to surface. Yet, determined, she continued reading. "I also know about your affair while I was stationed in Norway," Derek accused. "Someone informed me about your suspicious meetings at the Red Roof Inn. You've never admitted it, but we both know the truth." Anger flared in Sabrina's cheeks. That incident was ancient history. Why dredge it up now? They had survived that rough patch. She had been careful, or at least she believed so. Yes, her nights with that anesthesiologist had been thrilling, and yes, she had ended things immediately upon Rick's return. Why should it matter now? She wondered defensively. "Your actions make it clear you've decided one spouse can freely do as they please without accountability," Rick's letter continued, coldly calculated. "I suppose turnabout is fair play." Sabrina's pulse raced wildly. Turnabout? Rick's threat was clear. Each subsequent paragraph revealed how drastically he'd changed his life. He'd sold their house, emptied their bank accounts, canceled his phone, and planned an extended trip in an RV. Her eyes darted across the pages feverishly, ignoring curious glances from bystanders. Then, she read something that plunged her deeper into panic. "I've also provided HR at your hospital with evidence of your extramarital activities. They have a contract ready to sign. Either they terminate you and Dr. Trey, or face legal action from me over their failure to enforce the morality clause. Monday morning should prove interesting for you." Sabrina's heart nearly stopped. She'd once walked those hospital corridors with pride, known to all as a highly skilled, if straightforward, nurse. The thought of losing her job, and with it, her identity, was devastating, exactly what Derek intended. The letter went on, cold and direct. I gave our kids copies of your photos and videos with Trey. I told them the truth. I'm leaving for a long trip. They begged me not to abandon you completely, but I promised I'd reach out as often as you did for me. Exactly 0 times. Sabrina could almost hear the sneering tone in his words, shocking in its contrast to the man she'd dismissed as weak for so many years. Then came the final blow. I'm not divorcing you. If you want out, file for abandonment. I won't challenge it. I've already taken what's important. The house, cars, our money, even the respect of our children. Enjoy the open relationship you've forced upon me. By the way, I've left you a final gift, a $500 Visa gift card. That's all the plastic you have now. Rick. Her hands shook uncontrollably. Anger, humiliation, and sheer panic twisted inside her gut. Shoving the letter back into the envelope, she refused to even acknowledge the humiliating gift. Tears welled up, but she held them back through sheer force of pride. Breathing unevenly, she cursed Derek under her breath. He was the villain. He had destroyed everything. Sabrina straightened her back and approached the front desk again, sliding the envelope beneath her purse. Snapping her fingers sharply, she said firmly, I need a room. My husband left me in a tough spot, but I can pay in cash if needed. The clerk hesitated, clearly uncomfortable. We do accept cash, ma'am, but we require a deposit and valid identification. A wave of dread washed over her. How much cash did she even have? She quickly rummaged through her purse, finding barely $100, not nearly enough. Reluctantly, teeth clenched, she tore open the smaller envelope from Derek and retrieved the $500 gift card. She forced a strained smile. Try this. If Rick's words were true, it would cover at least one night. She waited anxiously, tapping her foot, until the transaction cleared. Relieved but furious, she paid for a single night. Room 1010, Miss Hale. Enjoy your stay. The clerk said politely, though Sabrina sensed an undertone of condescension, or maybe that was paranoia creeping in. Snatching the key card, she motioned brusquely for the bellhop and stormed away, anger bubbling fiercely within her. Angry at Rick, at the humiliation, and at how quickly her seemingly perfect life had collapsed. The bellhop silently rolled her luggage alongside her. As they waited for the elevator, she glanced at her phone, desperately wishing Derek would call, if only to confront him or unleash her rage. But his number was disconnected, a brutal reminder that he'd completely severed all ties. As the elevator doors slid open, she stepped inside, the letter in her purse burning like a scarlet mark of shame. Alone in the hotel room, Sabrina paced anxiously, trying to piece everything together. Her suitcase sat untouched by the bed, the city lights blinking quietly through tall windows, reflecting only her crumbling self-image. She collapsed onto the bed, haunted by memories of the moment she'd chosen Trey, arrogantly believing Derek would never actually leave her. Trey's charm, his whispered praise about her wasted potential, his flattery, all of it had felt justified. She'd laughed openly about feeling liberated from Rick, convinced he'd obediently await her return. How arrogant she'd been. When Derek called in fury, she'd smirked, certain he would calm down as always. Now, though, she saw clearly how her own pride had pushed him to act. A brief moment of regret flickered, quickly overshadowed by renewed anger. She had no home, no money, but she refused to accept defeat. She would fight back. After a restless night, Sabrina awoke with determination. Immediately calling the bank, she hoped it was all a misunderstanding, but the indifferent voice confirmed everything coldly. Ma'am, Mr. Derek Hale closed all joint accounts using his legal authority. We can't share more details. Please contact him directly. Fuming, she slammed down the phone, knuckles white from gripping the receiver. Next, she reached out to her grown children, both living out of state. Her son's phone rang through to voicemail, while her daughter, always closer to Rick, sent her straight to voicemail. She left an urgent but guarded message. Call me back immediately. It's important. She refused to detail the crisis in a voicemail, yet deep down she suspected Derek had already turned them against her. Dressing professionally in crisp slacks and a fitted blouse, her hair neatly styled, Sabrina took a taxi straight to the hospital. Perhaps she could convince HR that Derek was simply a vengeful husband twisting the truth. She had always commanded respect, known for her skill and blunt honesty as a nurse manager. If they dared to tarnish her reputation, she'd fight back fiercely. She wasn't going down without a battle. She arrived at the hospital just before lunchtime, purposely ignoring the curious glances of colleagues lingering in the lobby. Clearly, the gossip had already begun. She strode confidently toward the HR office, expecting to resolve the mess quickly. Behind the main desk sat a stern-looking woman, her nameplate clearly reading, Miss Carter, HR Manager. Sabrina immediately recognized the name from Rick's bitter letter. Her stomach tightened as Miss Carter lifted her gaze coldly. "Sabrina Hale, I've been expecting you," she said, her tone clipped and loaded with judgment. Sabrina straightened, meeting the woman's stare head-on. "I'm here to set straight these absurd claims my husband apparently sent your way. I'm not sure exactly what he told you, but he sent explicit photographs." "Miss Hale," Miss Carter interrupted, voice icy. "Photos and statements from a private investigator. Additionally, he's threatened legal action for breach of our morality clause if we continue employing you and Dr. Julian Cross." Sabrina felt her mouth twitch in disbelief. "That's ridiculous. He's just a bitter husband. He has no real legal standing. And how dare you invade my owl? When you were hired, you signed our code of conduct, did you not?" Miss Carter interjected, calmly pulling out a folder. She pointed firmly at a highlighted section. "This clearly states that staff in certain roles, especially those representing the hospital publicly, can be dismissed for immoral behavior or scandals damaging to the hospital's reputation." "This is nonsense," Sabrina snapped, even as her heart pounded anxiously. "This isn't some public scandal, it's a personal matter." Miss Carter didn't flinch. "The email your husband sent was extensive. He forwarded it to multiple colleagues, physicians, donors, and philanthropic partners. The explicit pictures have been circulated widely, creating considerable discussion within the hospital and beyond. We've already received complaints from both staff and key donors uncomfortable with your behavior." Sabrina felt heat flood her cheeks. She had never imagined Derek would stoop so low, spreading her humiliation across the hospital and the city. "So that's it? You're just going to fire me?" she asked bitterly. "We're still consulting with legal," Miss Carter explained carefully. "My role isn't to judge your personal choices, Miss Hale, but the board must protect the hospital from legal and reputational harm." She slid an envelope across the desk. "You're suspended without pay pending further review." Sabrina stared at the envelope in shock, struggling to find words, her emotions too tangled to speak clearly. Finally, she snatched it from the desk and spun toward the exit. Behind her, Miss Carter called out, "Security will escort you to collect your belongings." A security guard appeared instantly, his face unreadable as he fell and stepped beside her. Walking through the hospital corridors, Sabrina felt the weight of everyone's stares, some openly gawking, others whispering behind their hands. Her humiliation deepened, fueling her anger. At the nurse's station, she spotted Dr. Julian surrounded by a group of nurses and other staff. His face was pale, sweating visibly as people stared at him with clear contempt. Spotting her, he scowled bitterly, a flicker of fear crossing his face. "What the hell is happening?" Sabrina demanded sharply. Julian quickly pulled her aside, his voice low but furious. "Your psycho husband," he hissed, "sent those damn photos and videos to HR. He's destroying my career. I'm under investigation now." Sabrina yanked her arm free, glaring back at him. "My psycho husband? You had no problem humiliating me in Portugal. Did you think I wanted those images blasted all over email? I'm on the brink of losing my job too. Don't pin this mess on me," Julian growled defensively. "You're the one who complained about your weak husband and practically gave yourself permission to cheat. If I'd known he was such a vindictive snake, I'd have kept far away." Just then, the elevator chimed, and security approached. Julian stiffened, angrily pulling the stethoscope from around his neck. "Great," he muttered bitterly. "I've been summoned to HR. Might as well call it my execution." Sabrina's lip curled slightly, offering no sympathy. She vividly remembered how he'd mocked Rick's supposed weakness. "Enjoy your open relationship," she spat, echoing Rick's harsh words, before turning away, leaving Julian seething behind her. Sabrina had almost reached the exit when a familiar voice cut sharply through the tense air. She turned abruptly, spotting Tara from next door, the very neighbor with whom she tried to secretly orchestrate a swinger lifestyle behind Rick's back. Tara stood with crossed arms, her face radiating cold judgment. "Well, if it isn't the famous world traveler, Tara said icily, scanning Sabrina's stylish yet increasingly uncomfortable-looking outfit. I assume you've seen Rick's letter by now? Tara asked, her voice sharp and accusatory. Sabrina's stomach lurched uneasily. What are you doing here? Gavin had a checkup, and I thought I'd stop by HR to submit paperwork for a new part-time position, Tara explained coolly. Imagine my surprise when I saw your face plastered all over the hospital. Hard to miss. Sabrina swallowed, struggling to maintain her composure as humiliation washed over her. I'm sure you're thrilled, but spare me your judgments. I know you and Gavin are into swinging, so don't act morally superior. Tara let out a bitter, humorless laugh. Swinging, yes. Cheating? Never. There's a big difference, Sabrina. Gavin and I have complete transparency, no secrets, no lies. You tried to involve me in your affair with Julian without telling Rick. That's not how it works. Don't lecture me, Sabrina shot back defensively. You flaunted your lifestyle, practically pushing the idea for months. Look what it did to my marriage. Tara shook her head firmly. Don't blame me for your poor choices. Rick's a good man, Sabrina. Maybe if you talked openly with him, you could have found some arrangement. But you chose to lie, manipulate, and humiliate him instead. I had no idea you hadn't even discussed your plans with him. Sabrina clenched her fists angrily. You're defending him after he's wrecked my entire life? He sold my house, took all my money, turned everyone against me. He's the real monster here. Tara's eyes hardened. You pushed him to this, Sabrina. Actions have consequences. I told him as much when we had dinner recently. For the record, he had no interest in sleeping with me, quite the opposite. He found the idea disgusting after how you tried to manipulate us into your deceitful game. Sabrina felt her face burn with humiliation. She wanted to retaliate, but words escaped her. Finally, she managed a weak sneer. Tell him I hope he enjoys his pathetic RV life. You can both take your self-righteousness elsewhere. Pivoting sharply, Sabrina stormed away, ignoring the stares of hospital staff around her. By the time she exited the building, dark clouds had gathered and rain began falling, matching her stormy mood. She was suspended, likely facing termination. Her credit cards were useless, and the home she'd cherished now belonged to strangers. She vividly imagined the backyard deck, where she'd dreamed of freedom, now occupied by a happy young couple. In desperation, she reached out to two former co-workers for help. One mentioned hesitantly that Derek had sent evidence. The other refused to respond at all. Their rejection only intensified her anger. Yes, she'd made mistakes, but how dare they judge her? Left with no choice, she returned bitterly to the Ambassador Hotel, forced to rely on Rick's humiliating gift card. As the taxi moved through the city streets, she simmered with resentment. She had to track Derek down. Calls to old neighbors and even their real estate agent went unanswered. He had erased all traces. That night, she sat alone in the hotel room, city lights mocking her with their indifference. Checking her phone, she found no calls, no texts, only silence. But her inbox overflowed with forwarded emails from Rick, explicit images of her affair with Trey, sent to friends, family, even their church acquaintances. Her stomach churned as she read the cutting subject lines. My wife's new life, doctors without morals, open relationships, her side only. Rage consumed her. She paced the room, plotting revenge, fantasizing about dragging Derek into court. But was it defamation if the evidence was real? He had the upper hand. Collapsing onto the bed, she clutched the sheets, feeling helpless and furious. A quiet voice inside her whispered that she'd ignited this disaster herself, but she silenced it immediately. The next morning brought a small glimmer of hope, a voicemail from her daughter. Her message was painfully stiff and guarded. Mom, I got your message. I'm not sure what to say. Dad showed us everything. The photos, he didn't hold back. I'm disappointed and worried about him. He's hurting badly and said he's leaving for a while. Look, I love you, but I can't support your actions. I don't want to get caught between you and Dad. Maybe we can talk someday, but right now, I just need some space. I'm sorry. Sabrina closed her eyes, fighting tears. Even her own daughter was turning away. She called again, leaving increasingly desperate messages. Please, just let me explain. It's not as simple as it looks. But deep down, she knew Derek had already controlled the narrative. Hours passed as she frantically searched for lawyers willing to sue Rick. Firm after firm rejected her, one bluntly stating, if the evidence is genuine, it's not defamation. Without funds, you can't contest asset sales. She hung up, cursing in frustration. For the first time, true desperation sank in. She had nothing left. Later that afternoon, a strange email arrived. Her heart leapt nervously. Could it be Rick? She opened it quickly, scanning the contents anxiously. Sabrina, you're probably ignoring me, but I figured I'd try anyway, the email read. I set up this temporary account. Don't bother trying to trace it. I'll shut it down soon enough. Now you know what it feels like to have your life upended without warning. You built this world. I'm just living in the ruins. I left a few of your things at the storage unit. Address is below. It's just some random junk, old letters, nothing with real value. The unit will be unlocked this Saturday, 8 a.m. to noon. After that, it's all going in the dumpster. Don't expect to see me. I'm already a few states into my trip. The open road's beautiful, peaceful. I guess this is me being generous one last time. I'm only doing it because, once upon a time, I loved you. Maybe you'll want some trinkets from that past. Or maybe not. R. Sabrina's chest tightened. He was methodically wiping her out of their shared life. And yet, there was a twisted sense of courtesy in it, offering her a box of emotional leftovers. She furiously typed a reply, only to get an instant error. The address was already deactivated. Damn him, she muttered. At 7:45 a.m. Saturday, she stood alone in a drab alley behind a row of dingy storage units. The sky overhead a dull, oppressive gray. Another night at the hotel had drained her dwindling gift card. She'd barely eaten, saving every last cent for a place to sleep. Exhaustion clung to her like a heavy coat. The storage unit was locked. She checked her phone, 7:58 a.m. Right on cue, a local manager appeared, fumbling with a key ring. You Sabrina Hale? He asked, voice flat. She nodded. He popped the padlock and rolled up the door. Said to open it at 8. I'll close it again at noon if you're not done. Inside, the unit was dim and musty. She stepped in, eyes adjusting to the gloom. Lined neatly against the back wall were 5 boxes, each labeled in Rick's familiar handwriting. Junk, miscellaneous, keepsakes, letters, and, with biting irony, Sabrina's indulgences. She knelt down, opening one box at a time. Memories spilled out, some sweet, others sour. A photo of them on a ski trip 2 decades ago surfaced. In it, Derek was smiling, holding her hand, his eyes full of love. A sharp pang of loss hit her, followed by a wave of bitterness. She tossed the picture aside with a grunt. Time crawled. She didn't know what she was searching for. Some sign Derek still cared, maybe. But each item only reminded her of what they'd once had, and what she'd thrown away. It was like Derek had arranged the boxes to show her just that. By 9:30, she'd picked through everything and set aside the items she couldn't part with. Small, worthless to anyone else, but brimming with sentiment. She hesitated over the love letters, tempted to leave them behind. But something compelled her to take them. Maybe she didn't want Derek to own the whole story. She lugged the boxes to the curb, scanning for a taxi. She wasn't letting go of the last fragments of who she used to be. Just then, a voice called out behind her. An older woman emerged from a car, her expression cautious but kind. Sabrina? I'm Nora Dawson. My husband and I, we bought your house from Rick. Sabrina's breath caught. The name rang familiar. Derek had mentioned them, Grant and Nora Dawson. This woman looked older than expected, maybe weathered by parenting or stress. Sabrina gave a wary nod. Yes, I'm Sabrina. Didn't expect visitors. Nora stepped closer, arms crossed tightly. Derek told us about the storage unit. Said we might want to check for leftover items from the sale. He said you might be here and we could coordinate. She hesitated. I just wanted to say we don't want any conflict. Sabrina's face twisted. My home, you mean? Well, congrats on benefiting from my husband's personal vendetta. Emily's eyes filled with quiet sympathy. I don't mean to intrude. I can see you're going through something difficult. The sale was legal, for what it's worth. Derek told us you wanted a clean break. I guess that wasn't entirely true. Sabrina let out a bitter laugh. He's quite the storyteller now, isn't he? Enjoy the hardwood floors and the deck I paid for. Nora shifted uncomfortably. If it would help, maybe someday you could stop by, if you ever want to visit. For closure. Stop, Sabrina snapped, eyes brimming with tears. I don't need charity or your pity. It's your house now. Decorate it however you like. I'm done caring. Nora gave a small nod, backing away. I'm sorry, truly. I hope you find peace. Sabrina said nothing as the woman returned to her car, leaving her alone with her boxes on the curb, fury and grief locked in her chest. Back at the hotel, the boxes sat like ghosts in the corner. Sabrina collapsed into a chair, flipping aimlessly through Rick's old letters. One piece of paper caught her eye, an unsigned draft in her own handwriting. She remembered it instantly. Years ago, after a nasty argument about loyalty and trust, she'd accused him of infidelity during his deployment. In the letter, she'd poured out anger, suspicion, resentment, words she never had the courage to say aloud. She had never given it to him. Until now, she didn't even remember keeping it. Now, ironically, everything she'd once written in that letter had come boomeranging back to hit her where it hurt. Rick, if you ever betray my trust, you'll regret it. I'm not the kind of woman who forgives betrayal. I'll tear down the illusions we've built. She let the page flutter from her hand, the memory of her arrogance stinging more than she expected. She had never imagined that she would be the one betraying trust, or that Rick, of all people, would be the one to deliver such cold, calculated devastation. The day came when her stay at the Ambassador finally ran out. The front desk clerk informed her with an apologetic shrug that her gift card had nearly hit zero. She had no cash for an extension. That left her two choices: a cheaper motel or finding someone to take her in. But she had no one left. Desperation overpowered pride. She checked into a rundown, weekly rate motel on the outskirts of the city, a place with yellowing walls, flickering lights, and an odor of mildew clinging to every surface. She stared into the cracked bathroom mirror, struggling to recognize herself. The woman looking back had hollow eyes, tangled hair, and wore the same tired business slacks she'd worn for days. The sheen of pride was gone. She slumped onto a lumpy mattress as a roach darted across the nightstand. She closed her eyes in disgust, wondering how it had all unraveled so quickly. Then her phone rang. Her heart jolted. Could it be Rick? But the screen read, withheld number. She hesitated, then answered. Hello. A familiar voice oozed through the receiver. Dr. Trey. Congrats, Sabrina. You win. They canned me. I've basically been blacklisted from every hospital in the area. My wife's gone too, so thanks for that. Sabrina let out a dry, bitter laugh. Win? Look around, Trey. I'm in a motel where the cockroaches pay rent. Derek burned my whole life to the ground. Trey's voice turned sharp. Yeah, well, that's what happens when you hook up with someone like me. But you're no innocent either. Next time, pick a fling who won't get your whole life nuked. Sabrina wanted to scream, but the energy wasn't there. After a long silence, Julian hung up. She tossed the phone aside, disgust replacing whatever flicker of nostalgia had been left for him. Then, in a moment of spite, she decided to make one last call to Logan, an old military buddy of Rick's. He might know where Derek had gone. With trembling fingers, she dialed. The phone rang. Hello. Logan, it's Sabrina Hale. Hi. He sighed, already weary. Yeah, Sabrina, Derek told me not to talk to you. Her temper flared. Don't hang up. He's lying to you. Just tell me where he is, or I can't help you, Logan said flatly. Rick's been through enough. He asked for space. I'm giving it to him. And then he was gone. Fury exploded in her chest. She hurled the phone onto the bed. No one would help her. Everyone was protecting him, while she sat in a cheap motel room with nothing but regrets. A week crawled by, then another. Her suspension became official termination. A thin envelope arrived at the motel. Your position is hereby terminated for cause, per the Code of Conduct violation, effective immediately. News of the scandal had spread. The healthcare network that once respected her had closed its doors. With Rick's gift card tapped out, she resorted to pawning off the last of her jewelry, for pennies on the dollar. The final illusion of control crumbled. At night, she sat on the edge of the motel bed, staring at Rick's letter, the one that started it all. I'm not divorcing you. I don't care about divorce. I don't plan to remarry. I've taken what I need. If you want out, you do the filing. I'll be on the open road, enjoying my freedom. Just once, if you don't mind. That final jab cut deepest. He'd used her own line against her. Just once, if you don't mind. Words she'd said casually when she first confessed her affair, as if it were a trivial lapse. His revenge wasn't loud. It was methodical, psychological, a slow dismantling of everything she held dear. He'd given her the freedom she claimed to crave and left her with its shadow, isolation. Eventually, she found the strength to contact an attorney. She needed clarity, some legal footing, maybe even a way to accuse Derek of misusing the power of attorney. The consultation was sobering. The documents were flawless. Derek had dotted every I, crossed every T. The real estate sales were legitimate. The bank accounts emptied cleanly. Her own signature had enabled much of it. The attorney didn't sugarcoat it. You can sue, but without money, it's a long shot. And even if you win, you might not recover anything. Sabrina left the office hollow. Dreams of justice shriveled under the weight of reality. She drove her beat-up second-hand car, purchased with her last pawnshop funds, back to the motel. Rain smeared across the windshield like tears. She sat in the car, engine ticking softly, the sky pressing down like it wanted to bury her. And for the first time in all this, she cried. Big, ugly, heaving sobs. The woman who once walked with a confident sway now sat in a motel parking lot, broken and alone, the smell of stale smoke creeping through the cracked window. Eventually, she forced herself to move, unlocking the motel door and stepping back into the gloom.
Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to the channel.